So this is when a type 9 has become unhealthy. They become passive-aggressive. So what happens if you have a type 9 in your team? Excellent to have a type 9 because they're the peacemaker. So they will always make sure that the relationship between every single team member in the team is cordial, it's kept in perfect harmony, it's in peace. So they are always the pro-peace. They want peace, they want harmony in the team. So when you have them around, they are like a quiet energy, and when they come, they are very serene, they are very calm, and they just make everybody feel relaxed. So this is how a type 9 make you feel. So when a type 9 has become unresourceful, so to help a 9 become resourceful, talk to them very quietly and ask them what they would want to really see accomplished or achieved. Just because they keep quiet, it doesn't mean a type 9 has got no opinions. Alright, they do have opinions, but for them, keeping the peace is so important that they will just keep quiet. So even though they may have a different opinion, they just want to keep the peace and not say a word, not say anything. Alright? So, but it's great to have a type 9 in the team. So an example of a type 9, the Dalai Lama. So he is peace. So this is what Dalai Lama says. Sleep is the best meditation. So I can conserve more energy. Alright? So these are all the type 9s. So do you have a list of people that you've kind of written down that they may be a 1 or 2 or 3? Do you have that? Yes or no? Are you able to, how many of you are able to recognize which type you fall under? Anyone? Kind of mixed, right? Now, we are going to talk about why you couldn't really pinpoint and find yourself. Because in the Enneagram, although we each have a core type, we also have something called the wing. Because the wing will further define us. But I don't call it a wing because there's only one wing. Okay? We don't have wings, we only have wing. So how do we know our wing? Now, this is very interesting. Type 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Now, the wing is the number that is next to your core type. For example, if you are a type 1, your wing would be either a 9 or a 2. Okay, you cannot be a type 1 and your wing is 7. You can't. It's always the number that is next to you. So a type 2 Enneagram type 2 could be having a wing 1 or wing 3. So a type 4 can have a wing 3 or a wing 5. Now it is very important in the Enneagram, when you know your core type and your wing, the wing defines your personality in very great depth. And for example, a type 2 with a wing 1 or a type 2 with a wing 3 can be very different in terms of their personality. Very different. This is why the wing defines you in greater depth. So for example, a 2 is a loving person, very loving. So a 2 with a wing 1 will be very loving and yet at the same time having a very high level of standards. Whereas a 2 with a wing 3, very different. Very loving, yet at the same time is very effective and wants to achieve success. Can you see the difference? Very, very different. Alright? So, what we're going to learn about this diagram is going to be very, very important to all of us when we deal with relationships. Because even though the Enneagram tells us our core personality type, or the wing defines us further, when we are under stress or when we are under pressure, our behaviors will shift. Our behavior will change. And this is how you have the kind of relationship, this is how you can improve the relationship with the people around you when you understand how their behaviors can change under different circumstances. And we're going to go into this, and this is the best part about the Enneagram. because I'm going to talk about how each of the core personality type will shift under different circumstances. We all talk about how to use the Enneagram to have inner growth and to have peak performance, correct? So what I'm going to cover in the next 10 to 15 minutes, you're going to understand how different types of Enneagram can integrate with another personality in order to have peak performance. Okay, when I go into the explanation, you'll be able to understand it very well. Okay, let's start with type 1. This is type 1. Do you all see this arrow coming down? So when a type 1 is under stress or under pressure, a type 1, their behavior will shift when they're under pressure or under stress. So when they shift, they will move down to 4. This is the reason why when a type 1, their perfect values and standards and system and principles are not met. What happens to them? They get very temperamental, they get very emotional. Why? Because they have shifted to a 4. So when they move to a 4, if they are on the low side, medium or the low side of 4, this is when they can become very emotional or even sad. So a type 1 will shift to a 4 when they are under stress, when they are unhappy, when they are under pressure. Can you see the shift in the behavioral traits? The whole characteristics will just shift. So what happens? What happens when a type 1 wants to be at their peak performance or at their best? Do you see this arrow coming from 7 going to 1? Do you all see that? So for a type 1 to be at their best, they have to integrate with the characteristics of a 7. So 7 would have to go to 1. So a 1 would have to integrate with a 7, with the characteristics of a 7, in order to be at their best, in order to be balanced. So 7 would have to go up to integrate with a 1, in order for a 1 to be at their best. Why 7? Because 7 is all about having fun, right? About having fun. So when a type 1 is so uptight about everything, so when they integrate with a 7, they learn to let loose a little. So if you have a type 1 in your team, how do you help your type 1 to be at their best, to find balance? When you introduce them to have a little bit of fun. Bring a type 1 out to have fun. So go out on a relaxation trip, go on a holiday, go and do something fun that a type 1 would want to do. So this is how you help a type 1 to become more balanced and be at their best. What about 2? When a 2 is stressed, when a type 2, when a loving person is under stress, when a loving person is under stress, their behavior will shift and they will become an 8. This is why they become aggressive, they become possessive, and they hold on to you and they'll tell you, why aren't you appreciating me? This is when a 2 has become stressed up or under pressure. So you see a very loving person turning into somebody who is not so loving because they have shifted to 8. So how do you help a 2 to be at their best? You have to make this 4 to integrate with a 2. So this is why when a 2 in your team has become unresourceful, how do you help a 2 to become at their best again? When you combine and integrate with a 4, 4 is about being individual, right? Being original, looking after their own needs. So you help a 2 to address their own needs by integrating 4 with 2. So the 2s, the loving person, would then begin to look at their own needs rather than just focus on the needs of other people. So this is how you help a type 2, a loving person, to be at their best and to be at their peak performance. Okay? 3. What about 3? The achiever, the success-oriented, driven person. So what happens if a 3 is under pressure? When somebody who's all about success and achieving, when you put them into this pressure and they are stressed, what happens to them? They become a 9 and they can become passive-aggressive. They just go quiet. They don't want to talk. So this is what happens to a 3. You see a go, 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 very charged up person going under, just quiet. So this is what happens. The behavior of a 3 will change when they're under stress. So how do you help a 3 become at their best? They have to integrate with a 6. So this arrow goes up and combines with a 3. So this 3 needs that kind of structure to be, because a 3 can be so excited about accomplishing everything. They want to achieve this and this and this and this and this. So if they don't put it into a proper plan, they don't put it into a proper structured and organized plan, they will be all over the place. So that is the reason why. Okay? What about a 4? When a type 4, the individualist, when a type 4 is under stress or under pressure, where would they go? They will move to 2. This is where they want to connect with people. So how do you help a 4 become balanced and become integrated to be at their best? So they have to connect with 1. They have to connect with 1. They have to keep clear what their vision in life is. So this is how you help a 4 to become balanced and to be at their best. What about a 5? 5 is somebody who thinks a lot, right? Very intellectual person. So when a 5 goes to stress, when they're under pressure, a 5 would move to 7. And then they just want to have a little bit of fun. But when a 5 goes to 7 and the 7 is unresourceful, what happens to them? They want to avoid, because 7s just want to avoid things that are not happy. So this 7, when the 5 goes to 7, it may be resourceful or unresourceful. Okay? So how do you help a 5 becomes at their best? They have to connect with an 8. Why? Because 5 is all about massive thinking, right? Very intellectual, a lot of analysis going on in their heads. So what happens if you want them to be at their best? They have to connect with massive actions. So massive actions connect with massive thinking. This is how you can make a 5 becomes very powerful, very dynamic. Alright, what about 6? When a 6 is under stress, a 6 would move to a 3. Because all of these anxieties and all of these worries, all of these fears, oh, this is overwhelming already. So what would the 6 do? The 6 will then want to put everything in order and start to plan and make sure everything is taken care of. So this is how a 6 will behave when they are under stress.